Welcome to Session B, Stress First Aid for School Professionals. As you will notice, all participants have been muted. If you have any technical issues, please use the chat icon for further assistance. I will now turn the call over to Wendy Paisner for today's session.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today on this beautiful morning with all of you, and thank you for attending this presentation of Stress First Aid for School Professionals. I'm a member of the STRIDE team, which is Northwell Health's grant project where we support trauma recovery in youth with developmental disabilities. The goal of our grant is to educate and guide professionals and families who support children with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. Trauma is widely overlooked in these communities because of silos of care and overshadowing, which is a tendency to see symptoms and behaviors in youth with developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities largely as manifestations of their diagnosis. And we aim to educate communities about this, in addition to tailoring existing trauma treatments to support these youth. One of the grant goals is disseminating and providing information about stress first aid, which is a trauma informed principle for supporting teachers and youth in resilience models. So, I think so. Hello, can you hear me now? I hope people can. Okay. So this program contains the following information. I hope to give you an overview. I'd like to also extend my thanks to Dr. Peter D'Amico. He's the head of the STRIDE grant, and to all the speakers that came before me on the panel. So we're going to talk about an overview, a brief orientation to stress first aid for military and healthcare. And I'm going to introduce you to stress first aid in schools with a lot of examples, hopefully, that you could take back for yourself and for your families or for yourself or for your communities and maybe for the students that you teach as well. And I have a collection of adaptations and examples of stress first aid in school communities and additional resources. So to start, the stress first aid model is a self-care and peer support model. It was originally developed in the military to be used by first responders. The developer is Patricia Watson, and she was with the VA in government and hospital systems. And she developed this model for first responders so they could identify stress in themselves and in their peers or in their colleagues that they work with. She called it battle buddies. So you'll go on to see that the buddy system is something that we use a lot in stress first aid in schools. And the idea is that you notice and see stress in yourself and in your peers before it goes on to become something much more severe. For example, possibly a more severe PTSD or diagnosis of a trauma reaction. So it's attending to stress in yourself and in others in an ongoing way. Why stress first aid? So this is a practical framework. It's used in communities. It's hopefully to destigmatize, and it creates a common language and framework for people to use. So we could talk to our colleagues, we could talk to our students, we could talk to our buddies about this common language, and it sort of destigmatizes and prevents people from feeling shame about going through stressful situations. It is not a treatment. A lot of times I hear from teachers when we work with teachers, like, I'm not trained in trauma treatment. So this is not designed to be a treatment. We do, in fact, recommend at times when people have severe trauma symptoms or stress symptoms and it's approaching a level where they require treatment, we can make recommendations for trauma treatment. But this is really a precursor to more severe traumatic reactions. So it's hopefully helping people with the preliminary stress reactions and getting back to a baseline where they feel good, they're rested, they're recovered, they're ready to support others. Again, originally Patricia Watson developed this as seven core actions. We've kind of synthesized it to five, the main five pillars, and checking and connecting. So you'll see as we go on, and I show you the adaptations for schools. What is a stress injury? There are four categories of stress injuries that are very important to recognize because we all go through these. We're all affected by these, possibly at various times in our life. And if they're not sort of understood or acknowledged or recognized, you can go on to be possibly develop more severe stress symptoms. So, trauma is really when you've experienced or been exposed to an intense, horrific, or gruesome experience. You yourself have felt that you were going to die and experience someone you loved, you saw or witnessed something. You're generally exposed to a traumatic event. Loss is a grief injury due to the loss of people, things, or parts of oneself. So this, Dr. Bellison talked about in the keynote. This is like also could be a transition. Now, transitions can also be very good. For example, you can have a child, you can become a new parent, you can be retiring, which might be something you were looking forward to, which would have been a good experience. You could be getting married, but they could still bring up feelings of loss because essentially you're moving away from or losing the parts of yourself or your identity as you once knew it. So it could be for a good reason, but you could still feel a deep grief injury or a lot from a loss. So that's another source of stress injuries. It's very common. Kids go through this too. Teenagers go through this. Inner conflict is a moral injury. That can be when you're either witnessing or participating in a value or behavior that sort of violates something about your morals. So it's uncomfortable for you and it creates an internal conflict. The example I like to use with this in terms of inner conflict is during the COVID pandemic. Many of our healthcare workers were asked at times to use don personal or personal protective like masks, and maybe at times because of there was a shortage or something they had to use one that they might have used previously, which again went against like what they usually did, and this can create internal conflict. And then the fourth one is general wear and tear or stress or burnout. And we're all potentially subject to this in our jobs, particularly teachers. We're very conscientious where we want to do everything. We want to do everything right. We want to do everything the best we can. And at times we could potentially be feeling very fatigued, being exposed to burnout, being exposed to a lot of stress. So that's the fourth type of stress injuries. So it's good to keep these types of stress injuries in mind when we're thinking about ourselves, our family, we're thinking about the children we support, that people are often going through things. So trauma informed care is not really what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And it's looking at meeting people with through the lens of they might be going through some difficult things. And that's what we like to talk about a lot when we bring this work to schools and to teachers. So it's basically based on this continuum that Patricia Watson developed, and we've gone on to use with our healthcare workers, and I'll talk about that in a second. And it really is a model where you identify where you are on the stress continuum. Green meaning ready, rested, restored. You feel good. You're there. You're available to yourself and to your coworkers. Yellow is a little strained. You're having a difficult time recovering, but you're trying to. You need to monitor your own well-being. You're feeling a little bit stressed. Orange is more significant stress, feeling harmed. There's a lot of wear and tear. Possibly you're experiencing these losses, this moral injury, these traumatic stressors that I talked about. And it's time to recognize your stress injuries. And red is much more impaired. This is possibly where it's more difficult to come back to your green or yellow zones. This might be a case where you need to connect to support. You might need to connect to professional support. And we have some ideas in here also for connection and for helping your colleagues. So the essential elements in recovery from adversity are sense of safety, calming, connection, self-efficacy, and hope. And these are the five pillars that are come out of our work with in terms of psychological first aid, skills for psychological recovery. It's basically from short-term trauma recovery models designed to assist people in the immediate aftermath of trauma. So these five pillars, which we've distilled the model into these five pillars, come out of a lot of trauma research and literature. Again, it was adapted to healthcare settings. This model came to the healthcare Northwell Health System just before COVID, but was widely used in response to the COVID crisis and the demoralizing effects of this culture on our healthcare workers. Dr. Mayor Balison brought this to Stress First Aid to the 21 hospitals and 3 ambulatory facilities, the Northwell Health System. And we've trained many, he and his team at the Center for Traumatic Stress, Resilience, and Recovery has trained many healthcare workers at this point. So the 7 C's have been evolved now to the 2 main components of checking and connecting, a buddy up system, and 5 pillars of resilience. So, how did we come to do this with educators? What did we learn about educators? Well, we know that educators are subject to a great deal of burnout, excuse me, and that they reported that they feel very stressed and uncertain. A lot of teachers are leaving the field. We know that they're going through a lot of difficult times. And we learned from teachers during COVID when we went to interview them and meet with them and talk to them that they're feeling a lot of stress and strain, and they're very concerned for their students and their students' emotional health as well, and that they were looking for a way to help themselves and to help the children that they support. Our team at Stride, many members have a very long history working with schools and school children to support resilience. So you see here, I worked on a grant after 9/11 where we supported families and children who had lost a loved one, or possibly somebody had been down at the towers during 9/11. And we did trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy, and we worked with families in the aftermath of 9/11. We also have worked with families after Hurricane Katrina. You see here also a picture from Hurricane Sandy. We worked with students in the Far Rockaways and in Long Beach after the devastation of Hurricane Sandy. And to support resilience, we brought cognitive behavioral interventions into those school communities. CBITS, we did group intervention, individual intervention, screened many children. So our team has a long history, and I've worked with many families who have been faced with natural disasters. These terrible terrorist attacks, have been through horrible medical traumas, illnesses, and most recently, of course, we have the COVID pandemic, where children were very isolated, and we saw the importance of bringing resources to schools and to children to help with this isolation. We know that it's very important to promote cultivating a culture of connection and belonging, and we've made this model really does serve to support that as well. And you see here that we had healthcare workers that were equally under siege during the COVID pandemic. Check and connect is the foundational, ongoing, continuous process for this model. We like people to have a stress buddy. So, similar to Patricia Watson in the military, where she had a battle buddy, we hope people have a stress buddy or someone they feel they can check in with and basically say, "How you doing today?" Our Stride team, we meet on Monday mornings and Thursday mornings, and often at the beginning of the week on a Monday, we check in. Where are people? We're a small team, so we're fortunate that we can do this and get to everybody. But we want to know, how are you? Are you in the green? Or, hey, I have an elderly parent that was hospitalized over the weekend. I'm a little bit in the orange, or, I'm in the yellow. One of my children were sick over the weekend, or I feel pretty good. I'm green, had a nice vacation, had a nice weekend. I feel like I'm rested. And we like to check in with our colleagues and see how people are. And also, this model is about checking in with yourself. Like, how am I feeling today? And if I'm not in the green, what can I do to support my wellness and getting back to the green? I do like to mention that this model is this continuum. You could be anywhere on this continuum during the course of the day, or even fluctuate within minutes or an hour, or somewhat a couple hours back to the green. So maybe you get to work and you're feeling orange. You have to give a test, or it's state testing, or you left a sick child at home, or you got a fender bender on the way, and you get to work and you're yellow or orange. But you know what? You talk to your coworker, you're able to catch a 10-minute walk outside during one of your preps, and now you're coming back to the yellow or to the green. So it's not to say that at any one moment in time, this is it for the whole day, but rather, how are you feeling, and can I get back to the green? And that's another thing that I really like to say to my patients when I treat patients, and I like to say to students. And it's that, what, any one moment in time is only one moment in time, that you're not always going to be here forever. No matter how intolerable this feels at this very moment, this is not how it's going to be forever. And that can be very, very helpful and very comforting to people, particularly when they're feeling extremely stressed. And the other piece that kind of was mentioned a little bit at the keynote, which I think is very important, is to say, this is how it is right now. It doesn't mean you're going to always be like this, and that it's okay to sit in some discomfort. And it's okay for our students and our children to recognize and sit in some discomfort, albeit hopefully with skills that we can provide them so they can get stronger and be more resilient. And we're going to learn some of those now. So the stress buddy, I think I mentioned the importance of having a stress buddy. It's to normalize, it's to get peer support, it's to acknowledge that you're feeling like this is a difficult time and maybe somebody else really understands. Connection is a critical ingredient for managing stress. Connecting and belonging is one of the most important things for promoting resilience. We learned that a lot during the COVID pandemic, that the isolation was very, very difficult. And that when people started to get back to normalcy and they got back to connecting with faith-based communities, or their soccer meet up, or their softball game on Saturdays, or going to their exercise class, or going to a support group of some kind, or reading a book with their friends, it became easier to promote resilience and to get back to feeling connected with others, bouncing forward. So this is the stress continuum that we adapted when we talked to teachers and we learned from teachers. These are the words we used, and this is our model now. And again, when we met with teachers, we learned from teachers that these were the words they wanted to use to talk about safety. Is there supportive and transparent communication? To talk about calming. Are you taking a pause? We know taking a pause, and we'll practice this in a minute, is one of the most important things. We live in a society where people are constantly jumping ahead, acting impulsively, not taking time for pausing, not taking time to breathe and to notice, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Do I have to respond? Is a behavior necessary? Connection. So important. Huddle up, check in with your colleagues. What are resources? What are people doing? They can share, they can help you. There are a lot of resources out there. So you don't need to feel alone. You don't need to feel isolated. And we have a lot that I'm going to provide at the end as well. Self efficacy. So the part I love about this model is that it's a strength based model. It's self efficacy. It's building on people's strengths, the things that they do well. A lot of times I say to clients, patients, students I work with, what is it that helped in the past? What have you done in the past that has helped you? You want to emphasize people's competence. You want to emphasize people's strengths. And of course, gratitude for where we are, what we've learned, what we've gone through, the people in our life that support us. It's all part of self-efficacy. And that's one of the reasons that I really support this program, is that it's based on strengths. It's building people's strengths, it's learning strengths, because building resilience and cultivating resilience is a skill set. It's not like you're born with it, you have it, you have blue eyes or you have brown eyes, you know? It's not like you have it or you don't have it. It's something that you can cultivate, something you can build on, something that people can learn. And then there's hope and optimism. So hope is action with a plan. It's not just hoping, but it's having actions. It's having concrete, specific actions that can get you towards your goal. And it's encouraging optimism. Resilience is making meaning out of the difficult things that we've gone through in our life. So we go through difficult things, but we make meaning of them. We find a way to put them in their place and to grow from them, hopefully. So that is looking forward, focusing on your values. And in our Stride program, we've put the 5 pillars into this type of organization. So you see here we have supporting safety, time for calm, reaching out, identifying strength, and optimism, encouraging optimism. We use the feet model, and I'll show you later that people can adapt this to models that suit them, all staying within the evidence informed principles, so the 5 pillars, but you can use and adapt this in a way that suits your community and suits your population. Okay, so here are some examples for support for safety. Safety is very important. Without safety, people can't learn. Kids can't come. If they don't feel safe, you don't feel like you have a forum for being heard. You don't feel like you're being seen. Then safety is the most important thing that we could do for our schools and our school communities and for ourselves. We just want to have basic safety. Here are some examples. Do people feel that they have a forum for voicing their concerns? Are they heard? Do they have mechanisms for pausing and self care? Calming. I'm going to now do a brief mindfulness and breathing and pausing exercise. It's pausing and getting grounded. It's quiet. It's fostering quiet, slowing down your breathing, slowing down your mind so you can take steps and make actions that are appropriate. I like this one a lot because Viktor Frankl is a psychiatrist that was a Holocaust survivor. And he said between stimulus and response, there's a space. And I think it's so important. We live, again, in this society where people expect immediate responses, email, texting, everything is so immediate. Social media, the kids are constantly on social media, constantly with demands for social engagement, answering people. Are you coming to my birthday party? Why didn't I hear from you? Where are you? You know, I like to use this slide briefly to mention a example of my teenage daughter she was a freshman in college at the time, so last year. And she applied for an internship at the college. She was super excited. She got an email, but she sent the application. She got an email back. Wonderful. We loved your application. We want to interview you. Please schedule an interview time. Great. A minute or so later, in her inbox, in her email, she gets a email. Sorry, you're not on the list. We're not going to interview you. Right away, we get a deluge of texts from her. What should I do? What should I do? It's a mistake. I said, let's pause. Let's pause for a moment. I'm figuring that this will get sorted out. Most likely, it's some kind of mistake. And sure enough, I said, don't do anything. Just pause. If it doesn't get sorted out in the next couple of hours or by the end of the business day, we'll figure it out. You'll send an email. So sure enough, 10 minutes, 15 minutes later, she got an email. We're sorry, we apologize. Our second email was incorrect. Yes, in fact, you are going to be scheduled for a interview. And I just use that example because I know you all have family members that you work with your students. People expect immediate, and it's okay to pause. Psychology is thinking about your thoughts and feelings before taking action. And sometimes no action is okay too. So pausing, just say, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? I see in the chat somebody wanted me to put the feet model up again. So I certainly will, if you don't mind, at the end. Okay, so I'm gonna just walk everybody through a brief pause grounding exercise that you could do at any time. This is part of the calm. This supports the calm part of the pillars. So you're just gonna, I like to tell people to really, really feel the weight of their seat in their chair. Feel your seat back and just slowly, slowly, slowly focus on your breath and the weight of your body in your chair. And now, with 3 counts, notice 3 things that you see. So take a look around and notice 3 things that you see. And then 2 things that you hear. And 1 thing that you could touch. Maybe it's your chair, maybe it's your desk, maybe it's your own belly, your legs. And then, in order to fully experience the calming moment, it's very, very important to slow down your breathing. It'll slow down your mind. It'll help you connect. And you can do this with your colleagues. You can do this with your students and families, yourself. So let's practice. This is called 4 square breathing. So you're just going to breathe in for 4 seconds. Hold it. Exhale. And then take a breath in for your students and your students' families. People are going through so much stress now. Breathe in, hold it, exhale. For your own family and friends, hold it, exhale. And for yourself, if you don't care for yourself, you can't care for all the people that depend on you. Teachers have such a difficult, so just breathe in, hold it, exhale. Teachers have such a difficult job. We're supporting all the curriculum needs, the administrative needs, our students. And it's so important to take time for yourself and to use this model for first and foremost for yourself and for your buddies and your peers. So the third part of the third pillar is connection, reaching out. So this is really connecting people to networks, connecting people to support if they need it, using the language, using the tools of stress first aid throughout the day with the school culture, communicating it. If you'd like, and I can put in the chat the name of Janine Promisio. She's our administrative and research coordinator, or you can email me. We can make any of these, the continuum and the pillars into posters if you'd like to use that in your school community. Connection. One of our teachers this is an example, had just returned to work after their child with a chronic illness had a lengthy hospitalization. After noticing that she seemed overwhelmed, the assistant principal took the teacher aside and asked how she was doing and if she needed anything. The teacher said that she didn't have the energy to go grocery shopping, so the AP helped her sign up for online food delivery. So connection could be really providing support for people or also connecting them to support. So this is one of the examples I like to use. Identifying strengths. I talked a little bit about this. What's working? How are you being effective? What have you done before? If someone is second guessing how they have done something, I will share I've done something similar. So this is empathy, understanding. Hey, I've been through that before. This is how I approached it. How does this work? How does this sound for you? I think we can share our experience, how it affected us and how we dealt with something. It probably helps the person to understand, all right, I'm going to be okay. It's not permanent and it's a normalizing thing. It's part of the process. So you might need to link people to mentorship, extra training, possibly. But the idea is to bolster competence. This supports people's resilience. So it bolsters competence. It's not saying, I know only how to do it. I only know the right way, but it's finding out for them what are you doing? What works? How can I help support that and add to it possibly? It's augmentive. Encouraging hope. Again, resilience is about facilitating meaning making. We know from the literature on post-traumatic growth that one of the most salient things about recovering from trauma, from really severe traumatic events, is making meaning. It's sharing stories of resilience and recovery. It's increasing gratitude communication. People find that their values and possibly their values shift a little bit. They have a renewed perspective on what's important. They have a renewed idea about how they want to spend their time. That's similar to what Dr. Foyer said in terms of it's bouncing forward. So you're a little different. You're not going to exactly be the same after you've gone through something really difficult or something really traumatic. But how can you share your stories about resilience and recovery, and how can you make meaning and to improve your perspective? So I have here, and maybe you can all take a second to think about that, identifying one action that you could do in the immediate future that would support resilience. Again, it requires a flexibility mindset. This came up in the keynote a little bit. What's happening? What do I need to do? What am I able to do? Is it working? Supporting resilience is a process of adapting well in the face of adversity. And again, it's not passive. It can be learned, it can be cultivated, and it takes deliberate effort. But everybody has it within them to get stronger at becoming more resilient. So just I'm going to show it for a few minutes, and then I want to leave a little time for questions. I want to show some ways that our stress first aid program, our STRIDE team, has worked with teachers and educators. We've implemented in school districts on Long Island, and we've adapted it for high school students. So here are some illustrations of how we've used this. We've done a course, like a CE course in one of school district on Long Island, where we taught the course. We did it several times over 6 weeks or 4 weeks. We're going to go forward with 4-week classes. We can do some intensive work on stress first aid, where we've really introduced it. We've gone a lot into the pillars that I've shown you, all the actions and the competencies within those pillars. We've developed them very broadly. And we've asked questions of these teachers, and we found out a lot in terms of their reflections on what they learned. So, for example, the skills that I learned from this course are the power of connection, time to check in with colleagues and students alike. People need people there for them. Learning and teaching can't take place when all other feelings are far too big. This is part of the principle of trauma informed care. Trauma informed care is saying, not that you're trained to teach trauma, not that you're trained to treat trauma as a clinical psychologist might or social worker might, but rather that people come in with a lot of things, and that it's hard. Learning is hard when you have so many emotions, and it's okay to just acknowledge, hey, I maybe you're going through a hard time. I heard you're going through a hard time, or that sounds really difficult. I see there was a flood in your community, and that sounds really hard. So it's just acknowledging that there's a lot of big feelings that kids come in with, and it's hard to learn when you're thinking about all these big feelings. So Another one is implementation. We help teachers understand that they can have get outside, take a short walk, exercise the pause, exercise the calming, practice exercise, practicing having time to be with their colleagues and peers. And again, cultivating that knowing that students are going through difficult student situations at home and it might impact their emotions and learning. So I only have 10 more minutes. I just want to finish up here and then leave a few minutes for questions. But we've also used a brief SFA 101 to check and connect weekly. So that's like a 13 slide deck. Essentially, we just review the five pillars. We do a lot about where you are in the continuum, checking and connecting, and promoting this culture of de escalation. So that's another way we've done it. And that's the brief stress first aid. And then we had the pleasure of working in Oceanside High School and developing these SFA protocols to support the Oceanside High School Wellness Center with Dr. Nina Weisenrader. So the students there, they liked our model, but they wanted to tailor it or adapt it a bit. So you see here that they changed the colors of the continuum. The feet they made into steps. Again, still using trauma, the evidence-based principles. They changed the words, but they all essentially mean the same as the five pillars, and they made the pillars into clouds of resilience. So I do want to leave a few minutes for questions. If anyone wants to put any question in the chat, I put here some considerations if people see a need for introducing this model in their school. Do you feel familiar with the continuum and the five pillars? Do you have avenues for implementation of SFA in your school? One of the things that we learned in the last many years that we've been doing this is it is very important to have a champion or a real advocate in the school or a point person that can help in terms of bringing this into the school community. But one thing I really, really want to say is I don't want any educator or any teacher or any administrator that here on this seminar today to feel this is this is another thing that you have to do with your students. I really hope this is something that you can use for yourself as well, and that you can use these pillars and the actions within them to support your own mental health and your own resilience and ability to bounce back from stressful events, because we're all going through them all the time. We're constantly confronted with them on the media, social media, our families, anything that could be happening in the world that's difficult now, and that it's so important for us to monitor our own self-care. So I just thank you all for coming and listening to this. And I do want to just put in the name of Janine, her email, if you need to reach her, if you want any more information about Stride, or if anyone wants access to these posters, we can help you with that. And I'll put my email in as well. And take any questions if anyone wants to ask any questions. I think in order to respond to the question about sharing the PowerPoint, I think the PowerPoints are not going to be shared, but this whole training will be it was recorded and there'll be a way for you to access it at some time. Yes, you can get the posters made up. That would be, and somebody wanted to see the feet again. So I'll go back to the feet if anyone wants to see the feet. And then we have a few minutes if anybody wants to ask any questions. I'd be happy to answer them. Here are the feed. Um,
And as a reminder, everyone, you can submit your question using the Q&A icon located at the bottom of your meeting screen. And Wendy, we do have a couple of questions here.
okay.
Um,
I don't know
all
if I can
right.
see them, so I
So
might. Oh, okay. Okay.
we do we do have a question here. Any chance that they can send along the stress continuum chart, or could you let them know where they can get it?
Yeah, the stress continuum chart is one of the tools that we can provide for you. as far as like a way to access it on a Google Doc, we can get that for you, and it also can be like made into large posters as well. So you could email one of us, and we'll point you in the right direction of how to download those. Okay, so that you could get the pillars. I think we have the feet. So we have a few that you could mass produce or certainly download. Oh, I think somebody said they don't see the email in the chat. Did it, should I type that again? Let me see. I'll give you my email. Okay.
All right. So I think let me share it to everyone because I think they
Or
won't be able to see it.
yeah, maybe
Because they all right. Let me share it to everyone. Hold on one
yeah, you could
second.
share. How do you share Janine Primacio as well? I gave that one. It's JPRIMACIO at northwell.edu. She's on our Stride team and is our guru with all things technology oriented. I somebody asked an excellent question here about that SFA is not for all types of issues. Can some examples? Can I respond to that for a second then, if that's okay?
Yes.
Um,
Yes, absolutely.
okay, so uh, SFA, it isn't if somebody needs like treatment for post-traumatic stress or for severe mental health distress, like severe depression or severe generalized anxiety, or it's not a replacement for treatment. It's designed to be essentially a preventative tool for supporting resilience, and helping people get back to calm levels and not being overwhelmed by stress injuries. So, if somebody is experiencing, going to their school counselor and saying, I have thoughts of self harm, that person might need to be referred to a higher level of care and or therapy or group or something like that. And I know that most of you have mechanisms for doing that in your school community. So the only thing I see here is that somebody put in W. Dot Paisner. There is no dot; it's just W. Paisner. And thank you. I see Dr. D'Amico, the director of our grant, just put in some email information. So thank you very much, Dr. D'Amico. But that's a very good question. It isn't treatment. It's a precursor to severe sort of more mental health or illness. Let me just see. If there are any other questions, I don't see them, so I'd be happy to answer in the next couple of minutes if there's something I'm not seeing.
Do you have any other remarks while we wait for more questions to come in, Wendy?
Um, Well, I did want to just say that working with the schools has been just so rewarding. And one of the things that we're doing now in terms of like our last year of this grant is that we're watching how it's developing in terms of student voice. So the students are now taking this model and they're bringing it and tailoring it to work with the life skills classes, work with the ACE classes, work with children with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We're also seeing that they're taking this model and they're bringing it into the elementary school setting. This year at Oceanside, we might have an opportunity to modify it for the kindergarteners. And so we're hoping that it becomes widely implemented and disseminated and is user friendly for lots of different populations and communities. But we're working on that now, so that's very exciting. So,
Thank you.
you're
All
welcome.
right. So I will pass it back to you for closing remarks, Wendy.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so I just to flip back to this last page I wrote, if you feel that you have a need for this in your school and you have somebody who is possibly a champion or a point person, um, and you'd like to talk further, certainly you can reach out. And I thank you all for being with us on this day, and practicing your calming and pausing activities. Thank you so much. Okay.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. Our next session will begin at 11:30. To find out more about our upcoming session, please visit our event lobby for discussion topics and event speaker details. Coming up during the 30-minute break, please visit Break Explore additional resources session for helpful information available for download. Thank you again, everyone, and have a great day. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.